you so much. So I have two speeches prepared. One is 30 minutes, one is 25 minutes, but in the interest of time, I'll go with the 25 minutes. Just kidding. Now that I have your attention, let me just say thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for being here. On behalf of EFINA, I warmly welcome you all to this important stakeholder workshop for the next round of our Access to Financial Services in Nigeria survey. Let me begin with a deep appreciation for your commitment, your consistent partnership over the past decade and a half. The A2F survey has become Nigeria's leading source of demand-side data on financial inclusion thanks to your engagement as regulators, financial services providers, development partners, researchers, and civil society actors. Your presence here today signals a shared belief that financial inclusion is a national priority, and the solutions, therefore, must be co-created. This workshop has a clear purpose. We're here today to secure your buy-in for the analytical plan and thematic priorities for the survey, to get your insights on the draft questionnaire. We're going to be going into that shortly, to align on the key learning questions for deeper thematic analysis, and I would say probably the most important in my view, to reaffirm the purpose and direction of the A2F as a public good that benefits all. We're carrying out this work at a critical time. Inflation, naira depreciation, and physical constraints are reshaping how households interact with financial services. While digital platforms are expanding rapidly, exclusion persists, where trust, affordability, and literacy are low. Women, youth, northern and rural populations are disproportionately excluded. The refreshed, or in fact the National Financial Inclusion Strategy, set bold targets. Meeting them would depend on the timely, credible data that points us towards the right direction and the most important levers. So this A2F round is not just another survey. It's a compass for where we need to go next. In this round, we will be moving beyond simply measuring access. We want to understand quality, usage, and the outcomes of financial services use. We will be focusing on gender finance, as well as rural and northern inclusion, and consumer protection and financial health, where we would ask not just are people included, but are financial services improving resilience and their well-being. The strength of the A2F lies in collective efforts. No data set is important on its own. The questions we would ask and the actions we'll take are those that will create change. It will help policymakers ensure that evidence is actionable. Financial services providers can rely on it to ensure that customer realities are accurately captured. Development partners will be able to align this with global benchmarks and mobilize resources as needed. Civil society and researchers will sharpen the learning questions and accountability. And so it's not an EFINA survey. It is our survey. It's a national asset, and your insights today will shape its value. So I invite you to engage deeply. I challenge you to provide adequate inputs into the analytical plan, to refine the questionnaire, and help us define the key learning agenda. Together, we can ensure that this A2F survey round not only measures progress, but accelerates it, so that every Nigerian, regardless of their gender, their geography, or status, has access and use financial services that truly improves their lives. So thank you once again for your partnership and for joining us on this very important journey. I look forward to our conversations today. Thank you, and have a good one.
Thank you so much, CEO of EFINA, Foyinsholami Akinjayeju. That has really set the tone for our interaction. And if you permit me just to pick a few phrases and words that she used in her remarks. As we go through today, we want to secure buy-in from all stakeholders, because this survey is important to Nigeria and it is our survey. Other remarks, other points are lying on insights. We need timely and credible data that is going to inform decisions, inform the kind of policies that are created or enhanced. All of that would lead to the kind of impact we all desire for Nigeria. And she used the word, the comparison of the insights from the survey serving as a compass, giving us direction where we are going so that we have velocity and not speed. So those who studied physics will understand the difference. Speed is you're just darting forward. Velocity, you have direction where you are going. And then again, we want to accelerate inclusion. So we look forward to benefiting from the insights. We have here present and online literally hundreds of years of experience when it comes to practically doing things and exchange. So we'd love to hear from you, and this is going to be participatory as we go through the rest of today. So we have the next portion of the agenda, goodwill messages. And of course we know we are all persons of goodwill, and we all have very progressive and impactful things to share. However, we have someone here with us who can be a very apt representative, someone who is actually involved as a practitioner in ensuring that the right initiatives are not just talked about, but that there is resources pulled together to make it happen at the federal level. So he's joined me to receive here at the lectern to give a goodwill message, Dr. Nuruddin Sauro, who is with the Office of the Vice President, is a personal assistant to His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Dr. Sauro, please. A round of applause, please keep it going. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, please let me stand on the protocol established by the CEO. She knows who and who is in the room better than me, so thank you so much once again. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for this very, participating in this very important event. For us, as a country, the A2F report is a very, very important data because EFINA holds the data that a lot of decisions are taken for the country, as what you know. So because of the number of users locally and internationally, we feel that EFINA as an entity deserves our support at any given time. When we are invited, we have to make ourselves available. At the policy level, it is an interesting journey.
Survey data and ensure that when we get to the field, outcome should be that what you call it, last mile focus. So for that reason, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we are very, very proud and happy to align ourselves with EFINA initiatives and of course all the things they are doing because of the impact it's going to have not only for individuals of course but the entire country, as a nation. So again, for all the partners, I can see a lot of people from all different board regulators, the development partners, private sector. So I would like to thank everyone for being part of this journey, and I would like to assure you that if there's any role needed for us at the policy level, Mr. President is very much interested, is passionate about that.
Follow through to ensure that the right policies, the right steps are taken for implementation, so that it will not just be to do the survey, but what the survey can bring out. I think that's the most important and the most critical aspect of this. So thank you so much once again, gentle ladies. Our readiness to support and collaborate with everybody in this room and of course out there across the entire country. Thank you so much. Good morning, gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zaro. Really appreciate those fine words. We are motivated, we're encouraged, and we're energized to move forward. So we would like to now make progress to look at the overview of how we are going to go about this particular survey. And before I invite my colleague to lead us through this, I just want to pick on a few things that Dr. Zaro said, and let these just resonate with us as we go through today and even beyond today. So what did he say? One of the phrases is leveraging data to make decisions. And that is what we want to do. No guesswork, no assumptions, but we use data, quantitative and qualitative, which will come out of the survey to make the right decisions, develop the right solutions. He mentioned last mile focused. Nobody is going to be left behind, and that is embedded within the vision of EFINA. Every single Nigerian would not just have access, but also will utilize and use those solutions. Right policies and right steps. And we should be more focused on not just the exercise of doing a survey and bringing out information, but what the survey can bring out. Quote and unquote. That's from Dr. Zaro. So let's bear this in mind as we make progress through the conversations today. So what is the overview of the 2025 methodology, the data architecture, and some new elements being introduced to the survey? So if you've been following the survey 2023, 2020, 2018, and so on, you're going to see an evolution and enhancement of what the survey would make clear and what we can utilize. So to take us through this, I'm very delighted to invite my colleague, Chioma Wiwu, to take us through this presentation. Round of applause. Thank you very much. Reflections and expectations. Strategic objectives and innovations in the 2025 A2F survey. Chioma?
Good morning, everyone. I hope you're having a lovely day and the AC is not so cold. The room seems a bit cold. Tunji, are we ready for the slides? So what I'm going to be sharing today is kind of overview of the survey. For those who have known the survey, it's kind of a refresher. And like Zeno said, a little bit of innovations that we are introducing into the survey. And like the CEO mentioned, for us to get your buy-in, the goal of a survey is really like what happens after the survey. When we get the results, what are you going to do with it? So we want to make sure that whatever innovations that we're introducing, it's aligned with you, you think is relevant, and you think the questionnaires that we are, or the question that we're going to use to solicit this response is the right question, right? And I'm also going to kind of do a refresher into, for those who haven't heard of the survey before, what the survey is about, what even motivates us to do this survey year on year. Okay, great. So the A2F survey is a nationally representative survey, and what this means is that the survey represents what's happening at the country level, and it also represents what's happening across the 36 states of Nigeria, and is a demand-side survey. Demand-side in the sense that we speak to Nigerians, average Nigerians, to get their opinion, to get their perspectives, to understand what they are using, what they are not using, and why they are doing that, right? And the goal is to capture financial inclusion and, in recent times, economic inclusion. So it covers a broad range of questions from, landscape of credit, savings, investment. What is an average Nigerian using? And why are they doing what they are doing in terms of finances? That's really at the crux of the survey, regardless of the question we ask. That's the key thing we are gaining at. And we've done this survey since 2008, so this is the 17th year. And we've done 8 waves, and it's biannually. So every other 2 years, we run this same survey. And the objective of the survey has largely remained the same, but then with new innovations to capture things that are happening, currently every year. Because the goal is to measure our progress. When we started, what has changed? Has there been, are the policy innovations working? Are the new products impacting the market? And then what else can we do? So these are the 5 core objectives of the A2F survey. It tracks access to and use. So we also not only, in terms of the A2F survey, looking at access. Do people have access to financial services? Are they using our product? Also usage, level of usage of these financial services. right? And it also cuts across, one thing to point out here, both formal and informal financial services, because you know our market is very unique, right? And there's something we say at EFINA that people are going to find what to use, right? The issue is, are they using what you would like them to use, right? So there's also the trend, right? So the beauty of the A2F survey is that you can go back in hindsight and see the progress we have made, or you see where those some of the new innovations that has happened in the space, how is that impacted financial inclusion, right? So we have this data backdated 17 years ago, so that's a rich level of data. And if you're an astute researcher, it also will help you make projections. So if the past 17 years, this is what we have done, in the future years, what could happen if we maintain the same trajectory? The A2F survey also covers landscape, right? Savings, credit, insurance, pension, investments. So we also don't only cover banking services. And I think if this is new, I really hope I make this point, I drive this point home. So there are questions on savings. So I'm sure when you look at the questionnaire, anyone that picks your insight, there are questions on savings, on credit, insurance, pension, right? The goal, and then towards the fourth point there, is to provide evidence. Because you know that we can do innovations, but if we lack evidence, if people are not telling you what they are doing, whatever intervention, whatever policy change you are making is lacking evidence. And we all know the implications of innovations that lack evidence. It means there's a disconnect between what people are using on the ground versus what you are promoting or versus what you are advocating for. And there's the fifth point there, which was diverse needs. Because as the ecosystem is changing, or as there's globalization, we know that we're in the age of globalization now, there are diverse, unique use cases that keep cropping up, right? The A2F survey also provides opportunity for you to identify those use cases, right? What are the current needs? What are the new ways people are using even your existing products, right? So the A2F helps us capture diverse financial needs. And this will help support what? Product innovation. And finally, the last point here, which we've introduced, is really growth, innovation. It will help you, scope out the market, right? So if you take out anything from this survey is relevant nationally, right? And you can pick in. And what we've also done is we've captured subnationally what's happening as you go from state to state. So you have this unique insight across all the state level, and also nationally. It gives you an overview of where you can take action, especially if you're a provider, or even as a policymaker, where the gaps still exist. The next slide talks about the survey methodology, and we like to share it because we are really in a country where there's always debates about how you arrive at your numbers, right? But what we want to share here is that even though EFINA has done this survey in the past 17 years, what we always try to maintain is our engagement with, national agencies, right? The goal is to ensure that the National Bureau of Statistics is at the forefront of, is at the, at the forcenter of deciding how this coverage, the extent of this coverage, because we want to make sure that it's not just EFINA that uses the data. You use the data. You are confident that the National Bureau of Statistics was involved in sampling, in deciding, the representativeness of the survey. And what we also do is, for the states that we've mentioned, we capture at least 750 respondents per state, and this is, advised by the NBS. The goal is to ensure that, we are representing all the states at the and this is kind of the minimum sample size. I also want to point this out. There are conversations if we can increase this. Yes, we can increase it, and we're open to funding to increase this, right? So, but the minimum, so when we went to MBS, the goal is, what's the minimum sufficient for us to identify what's happening in Lagos? So this is the minimum, but if you have special interest in Lagos, please reach out after. And the goal is that whatever sample size that we look at, we can, our key objectives, we can get inside, we can understand savings in Lagos State, we can understand these savings in Lagos, in Kaduna, in Abuja, enough for us to make a decision, right? So the next thing that I've touched on this coverage a lot. The total sample size is a minimum of 27,750. So when you look at the 750 per state by 37, but that doesn't mean that year on year, depending on how our field work goes, most times we miss this, we exceed this mark. Then there are also some unique samples within the A2F, and we're highlighting this because you might be interested in it. First one is the Kaduna State, and this is really because someone was invested in Kaduna, wanted us to do more. So this is an opportunity to showcase that if there are states that you are interested in, there are opportunities to increase the sample size. So, but then in Kaduna, we have a larger sample size, like 6,900. One thing else to point out here is the age 15 to 17. Yes, financial inclusion, when we look at it in Nigeria, we really capture 18 and above because of the, the minimum age to open a bank account and things like that. But it's important to note that because of the advent of globalization, people now have accounts, or even people send their children to school and they give them a card, right? People within the age range are having means of, even the wallets, are having means of opening an account. And it's important for us to know, especially where there are issues with norms or things that we can't tackle immediately. But there's the younger population that we can start thinking of, we can start innovating for, we can institute better policies for ahead of the time that they will not become, the active workforce, right? So you can see this data in the A2F survey. So it was also there in 2023. So you can look at what's happening across the 15 to 17-year-olds. What has changed? Is their level of usage, has it improved or has it gotten worse? And that's something to, note out. For the questionnaire is typically in English, but we translate it because, Nigeria is not just Lagos. We translate it to Hausa, Yoruba, Igbo, and Pidgin, just to ensure that when we're speaking to an average Nigerian, the questions that you see on your table are asked in the local language, so they understand, right? This also gives you confidence that they're not misinterpreting. When they say they are using savings, they're not misinterpreting what we asked them. When they say yes, they actually said yes because they understood the question being asked, right? And at the end of the day, this results, yes, we collect 750, but the MBS applies the weighting methodology to it to ensure that the survey is representative at the state level. So you will see that the numbers are usually in millions. That's what happens. Yeah, and in summary, the survey takes us 80 days of field work. There are over 500 persons implementing the survey, across those asking the questions, those validating, those going back to ensure that they ask the questions, right? Because what we're trying to do is, at the end of the day, when we tell you this number, when we tell you 26 million Nigerians are not included, we are really confident in that number, right? And we visit over 1,800 communities, and across, minimum of 28,000 Nigerians are interviewed, and over 36 states plus FCT. So the next slide. The next slide talks about the key themes in the questionnaire. And that doesn't mean that there are no other themes, but this is broadly, this is the scope. And we are open to hear your feedback if there are other things you think we should include that are relevant, because that's the goal. And that's the goal of this session, to make sure that we're asking the questions that you will be able to use, not just we now have an answer and you can't use it, right? So there's the household register, which intends to, scope out the household. What is an average household size? What's happening? How many people are making income in this household? How many people are working? How many people have gone to school at the household level? So you have that rich level of information at the household level. There's the questions on the SDG, like what type of house they are living in, their roof, helps you to scope out, multidimensional poverty. It helps you to scope out like quality of life. It helps you to scope out wealth, right? Wealth in terms of assets. So we also have the respondent information, income, expenditure. Even last year we had something about how much were people spending, for their rent, for their school fees. Those rich questions are there, right? We have a section on DFS. What are you using for payments, cards, USSD? We have questions on mobile banking, etc. One thing I want to point out is the table to the right, which looks at new and emerging themes. And I think there's a later slide that talks about why. And we also want to get your perspective on considering what you know now, also considering your strategy for 2026. What else isn't here that if you had that information, you can innovate within the market, right? And you can compete. And Nigeria is always competing at the global scale. We can compete, and we can, bring out new policies, new innovations that can capture the market, because regardless of what we're saying, there are still Nigerians that are still largely excluded. What other themes do you think, can be covered in this type of survey that you get rich insights across all the states? So for now, we have two broad, emerging areas, which is consumer protection and trust. The next slide. The next slide really tries to capture that, we've said we've done this survey for the past 18 years, like what have we found, right? And this kind of shows a good story, a mixed story. One thing to point out is that, from 2008 is not here, But if you go far back as from 2010, you see how the growth, there's been a significant growth in financial inclusion, in formal inclusion, but mostly in payment, right? Because, you know, payment is really the initial entry, is what introduces people to the formal financial system. And you've seen that has grown. There are a lot of things, innovations in the payment sector, instant transfer, instant settlement, even the USSD for offline to capture people that are not living in places where there are networks. There has been serious innovations in the payment space, and that has grown, right? And you see that payments also most times look like savings. So people that have been able to, transfer, they are confident to leave that, leave that value in their account for a period of time. So that's captured as savings. But then when you look at credit, insurance, and pension, and I really hope I buttress this well, because this is where the dividends of financial inclusion, and this is where economic inclusion is captured. We haven't really done much. We have remained at single digits, and it's just credit that doubled between 2020 and 2023. So this is still where we really hope to see innovation, even, as a financial sector deepening organization. But this is really what one of our board members calls it our report card. It shows our journey, but it also shows where we can consolidate effort on, because that's the thing. The credit, insurance, and pension is really where people will build resilience. Also considering our country where we are today, it's not just transfers. Yes, there's the role of cash transfer, but credit. Can people get credit when they are, they are pressed? Can people be insured, to protect them? And can they be, is there a buffer for their old age that they live with, that they retire and they live with old age, they live in their old age with some sort of dignity, right? This is really where the dividends of financial inclusion is, and this is, where we are championing even as EFINA as years to come. The next set of slides really talks about a review of what we have seen. Like I mentioned, the A2F survey, what we try to do is, the next slide, to review, yes, we are tracking trends for the past 17 years, but we want to make sure that the survey is not out of touch with reality, that the survey is not removed, that we're just counting numbers and we're not capturing, because people do payments or savings within a context. People can only transfer money using formal system if they feel that they can bear the cost of those transfers, right? So financial inclusion is happening within a context. So that's also what we try to do. This slide kind of reflects what some of the changes that has happened between 2003 and 2025. And honestly, there will be a session that we hope that you share your thoughts if there's anything still missing here. Because we believe that whatever we're going to capture in the field this year would reflect financial inclusion within this context. We've seen, a lot of reforms, really positive and, long-term looking, elimination of the petrol subsidy. We've seen the unification of the FX market and the tax reforms. Yes, those are really, if you look at it long-term and economic, in terms of policy and fiscal policy, those are, we were going to definitely reap the dividends long-term. But, in the immediate term, there's this, macroeconomic pressure on the average and day-to-day lives of Nigerians. And we've seen inflation has, recorded even as high as, 40%. And when I was checking this morning, I said, okay, this is before the rebasement, right? It has come down to 20%. But are Nigerians feeling this, right? That's something to ask. And food inflation is really very high. And there's also that the cost of borrowing, the MPR has even gotten to 27.5%. In terms of the financial ecosystem, we've seen, a lot of, fintechs and platforms have, faced significant, sanctions within, from 2020 to 2025, really, which is, the regulator is trying to make sure that maintain the sanity of the, the financial sector. There's even a new, recapitalization of the banks and the insurance sector. These are really, good innovations, but we also need to consider how it's affecting the day-to-day man, right? There's ongoing efforts to, deepen agent penetration. Really, this is, something that we've done so well. Between 2023 and 2025, there's been, like significant advancement of, leveraging agents to reach the last mile. And between this time frame, we've also seen the growth of digital lending. Like I mentioned, between 2020 and 2023, we see that use of credit has doubled, but it hasn't gotten to double digit, but that has grown. But then with the advent of growth in credit in the formal space means also the informal markets, there are a lot of, that's the thing. If credit is raining, everybody, even people can be deceived and there's growth of even credit even in the informal market, right? So, but we've seen this, and then there's the ongoing concern, you know, around, you know, fraud and cybercrime. I know one thing that is not captured here is really the whole CBEX thing, but yeah, there's also that has, you know, it's like there's now an evolution of a complex, you know, Ponzi scheme, and that as a whole affects the financial system. You know, even one of the regulators came under harsh light in that season, like what happened and all those kind of things. It all affects how the average Nigerians perceive the formal market, right? So the third point here is really subnational, and thank you so much, Dr. Zaru, for being here. This really shows the government's, you know, position on financial inclusion, and you also see that it has been named economic center for, you know, there's the pre-CFI setup, which is the Center for Economic and Financial Inclusion. Even the government is thinking about it, not just financial inclusion, but then economically, right? Because it affects the day-to-day man. Then there's the growing domestication of the we policy, you know, even this at the state level, and that's also the usefulness of the data. For our subnational actors, when they are looking for where to act at their state level, there's this data, there's this relevant data, and we've seen one of our pioneer states, Kaduna, has really been able to use the A2F data, you know, to make, you know, evidence-based policy within their states, right? And this is something that, you know, other states can take note of. We've also seen that there's this report that over 30 million Nigerians are food insecure. There's the high cost of living, and then there's the, you know, ongoing cash transfer to 15 million households. We are pointing this out because we believe that this will be reflected within the survey, right? When we go out to ask people, when they say the reason why they are not saving or why they are saving, right? All this will be reflected. This will be some of the nuances within some of those responses they're going to get. And it will be good for us to hear from you if there's anything that is missing here, so that we ensure that we're situating the survey within the right context. And also, when you're looking at the questionnaire, you help us look, are there things that we can capture that you think should be relevant? Are there relevant things that are missing that happen even within this time frame that, you know, if we, you know, when something negative is about to happen, if you catch it early, is there a whiff of something we can, you know, find out early that we can nip in the bud? I think one for us is consumer protection and fraud, though. So the next slide really talks about how at EFINA we have reflected some of these developments. There might be things missing, and we really hope to get your thoughts on it. This is how we have reflected some of these developments. One of it is to have a consumer protection model. Yes, in the past we have asked some questions, right? When you go to how do you address complaints, redress, things like that. But for the very first time, we have a module. A module is kind of like a series of questions that tries to, you know, capture a particular thing. You have a consumer protection module, and this module has some questions on fraud. So we ask people. I know that fraud is underreported, but at least we see the level of self-reporting when it comes to fraud. We have questions on how people handle complaints, how people seek redress. So that's also something that we have in this new wave. The next new module we've introduced is something on financial literacy, and we're doing this, you know, in collaboration with the central bank, which is is there a right series of questions that can capture people's level of financial literacy? Yes, there's a conversation that even if people are literate, when your push comes to shove, they might not still take the action you want them to take, which is financial capability, but that's also in the questionnaire. But if we can correctly measure the level of financial literacy in the country, maybe as a nation or even subnationally, we'll be able to take the right action, right? And also understand that maybe numeric literacy is good, but maybe there's also the other aspect that is not so good, and we figure out where the main issues are. The next set of things that we've also reflected in this new questionnaire is to improve tracking across certain segments. Yes, we ask people, what is your source of income? But sometimes, and people have, and this is Nigeria, most people are doing multiple things, unless us that are employed in a 9 to 5. People have businesses, they go out. So most times it's difficult to determine, is this a pure business owner or a farmer or things like that. But what we've done in this new round is to kind of make sure that we can accurately determine someone's, you know, so we can group people the right way. So when we say MSMEs are facing this challenge, you know the type of SMEs, where they are, and, you know, and things like that. That would be useful, you know, for programming and for policy. We've also tried to strengthen the we, right? Women economic empowerment is critical, and there's a section where we talk about that we just don't want people to be financially included. We want them to move up, right? The moving up with the ladder is that this financial inclusion improves their life, because that's the main thing. People can transact, but it's not improving their life. That's why stickiness is such an issue, and people switch from providers to providers because it's not valuable. But economic empowerment and financial health is kind of the shift, even as an organization, what we're making, which is people, women, when they have savings, when they have credit, they can get credit for their businesses, they can get insurance to protect against, challenges, health challenges. It will give them resilience to even build agencies, right? So that's something we've done. We've strengthened the WE measurement. There's no module that is women economic empowerment, but there are a series of questions that if we organize together, that can form, women economic empowerment. And then there's also the financial health. And generally, our goal is to make sure, I keep saying this, that it's not just EFINA that uses the data. The importance of the data that is relevant to, especially the government, is relevant to you, the provider, is relevant to a policymaker, is most relevant to a subnational actor, because we have this rich level of data that you can say, as you are going from state to state, if your focus for the next year is to capture the north, where in the north should you go to, what's happening in the north, and how can you, approach that. The next slide really talks about the financial health framework. And yes, we've had this in the past, but we've tried to also deepen it, because, the context I've shared earlier and what we have said about how, there are good policies, but there's microeconomic pressure on the daily man, which is, can we have that as people are using these tools and financial inclusion, they are paying, they are using mobile wallets, they are doing whatever is necessary, that it meets their basic needs, right? And it helps them remain resilient, because that's the thing. It's in adverts and clickbait. Every family is one sickness away from poverty. But what can we do about that, right? That's also what we've tried to use, the A2F to kind of champion. That within the A2F, there's this framework called financial health. It will help us move up, right? The next aspect of financial inclusion after people being included is financial health and economic empowerment, right? And this framework is within the A2F. It has four breakdowns within it. How are people spending, right? Can people balance their expenses, right, between their income and their expenses? Because that's the thing. It's not just they are sending money, receiving money. At the end of the day, people are still cannot do well for themselves. So there's the saving aspect of it. There's the planning, that people can plan their expenses, because most times they say it is not about how much you have, it's how you're able to plan within the amount you have. Then how are people managing risk? And do they have access to funds when they need it? The last one is really terrible. I think it was the last round of the survey. We asked an average Nigerian, how easy is it for you? How easy can you come up with 75,000 naira in 7 days? Over 80% said it's hard for them, right? So what of credit? Credit would have solved this, right? But people are not. So when you ask people questions, that doesn't come to mind. That's not what they will naturally do. So it's something for us to think. And what financial health does is that this 4 brackets of indicators, it tries to synthesize it into, do people score high on financial health or low or medium? This is really what makes it up. I believe that this is what we can use to champion, economic inclusion. When we see where people score on the financial health, we can also come down and say, okay, maybe they can plan well, but they are not managing their expenses correctly. So maybe we need to tackle financial literacy. Maybe they are saving well, but their saving is wiped out when there is an emergency. That means maybe we can tackle insurance, right? So this is the framework. We've strengthened this framework within the A2F survey, and we would like you to review this. But this is something that we think is critical for economic inclusion. You can figure out where individuals fall in, and you can help them. You can also identify where to help them within the framework. The next, I'm already wrapping up. The next slide talks about something I hope that we take out of this session, which also looks at customer segmentation. The A2F really has rich data, but I think maybe as researchers we get it. But for providers to figure out that this survey has rich information across a large group of people, and what you can do with this is to segment people, right? to segment people. There are two use cases here. I would like to start with the use case of the farm access. So farm access is, is a subnational, it's not a subnational, it's a sub-African, pharmaceutical company. But I want to tell you what they did with the FinScope survey. This is, a type of A2F survey that is done in Kenya. So the issue they had was that 3 out of 10 Kenyans, they delay or they don't even receive medical intervention because of money. And they were thinking of a use case for, a health credit product. Can people get credit? That's what they called it. They didn't call it insurance. But they're looking at a use case for, and this means that you can come with whatever question you have, right? And the data will tell you if you are in the right direction or not, right? So, but what FarmAccess did was that they took, their A2F version, that is A2F survey, so we call it FinScope Kenya, and they segmented the population across age, income, where you're living, and all these questions are available in the A2F survey, right? What are people earning? Where are they living? And they got like 15 segments. So if you group people, men, women, where are they living in the north? Relevant for us in Nigeria could be in the north. Which part of the north? Is it northwest, northeast? They segmented the population, and then they asked, within those 15 segments, they looked at these questions, right? So the questions to the right: regularity of income, right? Because it's not that people, because even as a provider, you also need to find people that will pay for the service, right? So while you might have people you need to serve the average Nigerians, you will segment those that are, you find out the segments where there's more people. That's the first thing, right? Even if you want to reach the entire north, where can you get the most number of persons? Yes, you will scale much later, right? Then do these people even have sufficient income to, uptake your product, and can they repay you back? All these questions are available in the A2F. So it segments, so they used the segmentation, segmented the population, and they looked at these questions, right? The financial burden, and this question is also in the A2F. How many people in this household earns income, right? It also helps you kind of understand the financial burden the household is facing, right? How do they, there's something here on monthly medical expenses. Why do they default on loans? I know on the A2F what we ask is, do they think their debt is manageable? Do they have loans? Where do they get the loans from? All those questions are available. It helps you segment the market. Yes, we have the data on nationally, but you can say where is the most number of persons that have this need that you can quickly reach, right? To the right is a human account. Human account, is done by Dalberg, but what the idea is that they believe that people need to be served with the understanding of, kind of what their motivations are. That's one of the key issues why there are no sticky nets. You can do all your marketing adverts, but it will not appeal to maybe someone in Balogun market if you are not speaking to their needs, right? So it looks at how they do their segmentation is when you look at demographic. Demographic talks about what are the people like, their age, their gender, their level of education, what's their behavior. Before you change your behavior, you need to figure out what the person is already doing. So that's in the A2F survey. Are they saving? How often are they saving? What's the minimum amount they've saved? Are they sending money anywhere? What's the amount they've sent? And which country are they likely to send money to? Right? And this also includes something on, psychology. What motivates them? Right? Yes, in the A2F survey, what's really here is psychometrics. How are people risk averse? That's important for credit, because people that are high in risk averseness you will require so much level of effort to get them, right, to uptake your product. But this will help you. So if you look at that data at a national level, you segment the readily, most times we call it addressable, the easily addressable market that you can quickly make traction on, right? And finally, what we do, while we advocate for the A2F, the use of the A2F data, what we've done, in the last survey is to synthesize some of this information into different resources. And we promote that people use the data. And at EFINA, one thing we're always happy to do is when you tell us that you want to use the data for something, we will walk you through it, help you to use it, explain whatever you need for whatever thing you're building, right? So one thing is that the data is publicly available. I think that's also something, when people hear about all the things we do, they think that we will charge them for the data. Please, the data is publicly available at this link. And if you have any challenge using the data, always feel free to reach out at feel free to reach out to us. I think info@efina.org.ng. We are always available to explain. I think every other month we are sending, and something we've seen with the data, we're always sending this data to researchers abroad. They are very interested in the market, but it now feels like our Nigerian people are not, we don't really value our data, right? So there's this available information. There's, we have done some dashboards, and you can, yeah, this is an example of the dashboard. There are several dashboards. Let us know. Most times you might not want to see through the data set, especially. You might want to kind of see something, a snapshot of something we've analyzed. So these are like pre-analyzed. You will see how it comes out. It comes out in charts, and you can quickly answer your questions. So we have these dashboards, and let us know, and we can always share some of those resources with you. Last year, we've also done, there's a report, over 100-page report. It's an easy read, even if it's 100-page. But there's also a summary deck. So you can even see, what some of our findings from 2023. And we also have a fact sheet. The fact sheet kind of looks at select indicators as you go from state to state, especially if you have interest in the subnational level. So we have some of these resources, and we have other reports also available at, the EFINA website, and that we want to and encourage you, to look at and to use. And if you have any issues using any of them, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chioma. We could just let you keep going on and on, because a lot of rich insights, and it gets us excited. So when we began, if you look at the screen, you see we are excited to welcome you today. We are also excited to embark on this journey with you, and to deliberate, to think together, to brainstorm, to bring our ideas together so that we can have a very rich survey in 2025. So thank you so much, Chioma, for taking us through an overview of how we are going to go about getting the data built together and what follows after that. Just some points that she had mentioned. She mentioned a whole lot of things, and I'm sure we took notes, but I just want to highlight a few things. And she mentioned that people need to be served considering their needs. And here's the interesting piece: motivations. So you look at a cluster, you look at a segment, and you make a determination that a particular solution is good for them. But then a section of that segment may not be responsive, because you've not taken into consideration what's driving them. So it's not just about pain points, it's also about their plans, their projections, their aspirations. And we capture all of that in this evolving national survey. Other points that were mentioned include dividends of financial inclusion. So while we've seen growth in savings, we also want to see growth in credit, insurance, and pensions. That those are the financial services that ensure people don't get lost in ground zero when some significant events that are adverse occur in their lives. Situating the survey within the right context, let's bear that in mind as we discuss. 2 questions to answer: what is missing? What should we include in the questionnaire as well? And we're excited about the survey because it is nationally representative, and we have a rich sample size that ensures every single geography is covered, and enables us to go back in hindsight to review progress and also make progressions for the future. And we also mentioned that the next generation is not neglected. We are thinking of the generation that follows so that they too can get involved with formal financial services. And it is so apt that we're talking about the power of the survey to help us look back and then effectively look forward. And that's why the very next section of today's program is about reflections and expectations, where we're going to have experts who are going to come for the panel conversation. We're going to get to that. But before we do that, like we said earlier, the survey is ours. It's partnerships. EFINA is not on this journey alone. And we have our partners in the room, which we would like to recognize. And these recognitions are not awards, but they are a message to all of us that we have partners and collaborators who are doing tangible things within the country to create measurable change that you can touch. And when I say in the room, I mean physically here and virtually as well. So here in the room, we are very pleased to recognize the presence of the MD CEO of SANEF, Shared Agent Network Expansion Facilities, Uche Uzoebo. You would appreciate the importance of agents if you remember COVID, how you were able to get funds in your neighborhood. So SANEF has done a great deal and is an excellent partner that we're all very pleased to work with, collaborate with. Also in the room, we have the representative of MasterCard Foundation, Onyeka Cold Sweat Akwaida. And if you've heard about MasterCard Foundation, you would recognize how they don't just talk, but they provide support, technical and otherwise, to enable the achievement of financial inclusion objectives. So you're welcome. And we have also in the room as well, Octaville Development Company, the MD CEO is here. And we have, you're welcome, we have Women's World Banking represented. We also have the MD CEO of Source Microfinance Bank. So you know it will source your financial needs. And of course, we have a whole host of other key partners who are in the room here. Online, we have present with us the head of the Financial Inclusion Delivery Unit within the Consumer Protection and Financial Inclusion Department, Mrs. Temitope Akinfade. We also have representing UBA and a member of our technical advisory group, Mr. Shamsidin Fashola. Thank you for joining us online. Then we have representing the Director General of PENCOM, Dr. Babatunde Alayande, the head of micro pensions, online too. Then we mentioned that we've done work with Kaduna State. They are a leading light within the North in actually implementing solutions and innovations around financial inclusion. So we're very happy to have with us joining online Honorable Tanko Mohammed, the Commissioner of Finance for Kaduna State Government and a member of our technical advisory group. Then, of course, we have our key partner who keeps us on our toes and directs us and guides us and supports us. A lot of what we do wouldn't be possible without the investment and the commitment and the consistency of this organization, and that is the Gates Foundation. We're very happy that we were able to have join us and online with us Munir Bello, who is the country lead for inclusive financial systems. Thank you so much, Munir, for joining us. And of course, in steering the ship, earlier on we heard the expression used by our CEO of compass. You know, we need direction in all we do. The data gives us that direction. And the person who directs the board of directors in EFINA is also with us here virtually, and that is Dr. Agnes Tukumbo Martins. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you for your partnership and support. The survey is ours. We can't do this alone. But we'd like to just hear a goodwill message from Mr. Munir Bello, the country lead for Gates Foundation Inclusive Financial Systems. We are going to hear from him online. So Munir Bello would love to hear a goodwill message, if you can hear us. Let's hang on a bit as technology is being...
Thank you, Zeno. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Zeno, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Thank you very much, Zeno. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us. Although I'm joining virtually, it's really a pleasure to be here with you today on the ninth edition of the EFINA uh, Access to Financial Services Stakeholder Engagement Workshop. Like Choma said, since 2008, the A2F survey has been an essential public good. It has been providing rigorous demand-side data and has helped shape the Nigeria financial inclusion landscape. We really commend EFINA for sustaining this important work for the last 17 years. I mean, 17 years is a very long time. And for bringing together today such a diverse set of voices. We have people from the public and private sector, and to ensure that the 2025 edition continues to reflect real market needs and national priorities. As Nigeria works towards bold inclusion targets, especially for women, youth, and underserved communities, data will continue to be our compass. We at the foundation, it is the foundation upon which smarter policies, inclusive product designs, and coordinated investments are built. And for many of us in this room today, it remains central to how we define impact. Like I said, at the Gates Foundation, we are so proud to partner with EFINA in this work. As broker, building bridges, producing really insights, our collective input will shape the next wave of the A2F data. Thank you very much for your continued partnership and for your unwavering commitment to financial inclusion in Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Munir Bello. Very, very well appreciated the support and the partnership. And of course, we are committed to continue bringing these insights, which of course you mentioned, build bridges. And as we said earlier on, in this journey, we are a collective here, a collective of partners, people who are willing to respond whenever the call goes out. And we're going to progress through today's program, recognizing our key partners and also those who are motivating us internally and those who are letting us understand if we've left any stone that hasn't been flipped over or unturned to unravel opportunities. So I'd like to also recognize, and we would like to recognize as EFINA present here with us. When we started, we said there was a voice that spoke on our behalf and talked about the derived from the center, and that is from the federal government. And for those of us who are here to hear the passionate speech that talks about practical things being done and being focused on by the government, would really have taken some good notes. So I'd like to once again recognize the presence of Dr. Nuruddin Zauro. Double honor. Thank you so much. We're really appreciative of your responsiveness. And he is with the Office of the Vice President and is a technical assistant to the President. And we have heard the commitment. So please, if he's leaving and you have something tangible you want to implement, please hold Dr. Zauro. He has stated for the world that is available to provide support. We mentioned insurance as one of the dividends of the survey. And then we mentioned one of the representatives online who is with Pencom, microinsurance. In the room here with us is a practitioner who is very passionate about micro pensions and also microinsurance. So we're very happy to also recognize our partner who is in the room, Tunji Andrews, the MD CEO of Awaba. He's very much in the field. So thank you so much for being here with us. And we're very happy and proud to recognize our partners in this way because of what they are doing. We can learn from them. So please, during the networking session, please grab somebody and find out what partnerships can be developed and what we can learn. A number of other people have walked into the room, so I'm just so happy, but as we progress later, we can also mention their contributions. But it's now time for us to reflect and project what are the expectations, and that's where the panel comes in. If you look at your program, we have reflections and expectations. The role of A2F in driving inclusive finance and financial resilience. That's going to be a very interesting conversation. And we have as the moderator for that panel discussion, my dear colleague, Emmanuel Umukoro. He is the Policy and DFS Advocacy Manager at EFINA. Emmanuel, please, you have the stage. Then for panelists, of course, Emmanuel, you'll introduce the panelists who are going to join you for the conversation. So, but I'm just going to mention their names. Mr. Blessing Oladeji, CEO of Octave Analytics Limited. You're welcome. Thank you so much. Please join us here in the front for this very important conversation. Then we also have joining the moderator, Mr. Kalu Aja, lead Kalu Aja LLC. Please pardon me if I didn't call the surname very well. Mr. Aja here? Okay. Virtual, yes. So Mr. Aja, you're welcome. We are sure you can hear us, so we look forward to benefiting from your contributions on this panel. Then, of course, joining us shortly, we have Mr. Ajibade Laolu Adewale, Chairman of CB, that is Committee of E-Banking Industry Heads. So we warmly welcome him in advance. All right, Mr. Amukuro, over to you.
All right, good morning. I'm told that the fourth chair, which I was assuming is for Mr. Kalu, who is representing the online community. So, yes. Mr. Chairman, please come join me. Yes, sir. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Good morning.
Good morning.
I need the room to be lively. I used to be a teacher in my former life, so I can ask you questions anytime. So please, if you don't respond, that means you are calling my attention. If you over-respond, you're also calling my attention. All right, so good morning.
Good morning.
Technical, do we have a third microphone? Okay, we can. So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This morning, I have a simple exercise to do, which is really to bring out the life of A2F, right? And I'm talking to people who have interacted with the data, who have used the data for decision making, and they will share some thoughts with us. At the end of the day, really the things we want to achieve, we want to be able to see how A2F has improved lives, has improved businesses, and for those of us who say, if I even see this data, how do I use it, right? You will learn one or two things on how to put the data into use. And you'll be able to also ask them some questions. So I will begin by introducing. He didn't come late anyway. He just walked in, but he was stuck in another meeting outside. So he's juggling too many meetings. Congratulations, Mr. Chairman. I'm congratulating him because he was just re-elected as the chairman of Committee of E-Business Industry Heads. So, congrats. He did so well in his first term. I'm sure if he didn't do well, he wouldn't have been re-elected. So there is also more. I fight him a lot when it comes to area of fraud and dispute resolution. So, but he promised doing a lot, and he's really doing a lot. Congrats once more. So I will start from you. He is the chairman of CB, like I said. He represents these industry leaders who, anything payment, if you do transfer and it fails, right? Now I've told you the person that you can go and meet. If your money disappeared somehow, he's in the industry fraud forum also, right? You can also reach out to him. If you're unable to even send dispute resolution request, right? You can also meet him, right? But please don't harass him after this, please. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, apart from wearing the cap of the CB chairman, he's also the Chief Partnership Officer at Wema Bank, right? Before he even assumed that he has been leading digital banking, e-banking at Wema Bank. So you can see he's the man that the cap really fits for this CB role. All right, Blessing, So let me turn to Blessing. So Blessing is the CEO of Octave Analytics. Those of us who do research, they say we are usually plunged into analysis paralysis. So you can see his head. His hair is white already. You know. And Dr. Zaro, you know this thing. If he takes his cap, so Dr. Zaro now, takes all the hair out because of that, So he is the CEO of Octave Analytics, a research firm based here in Lagos. He wears many caps, but because we're out of time, I wouldn't go into that. But Blessing has also sat on the data. Some of the dashboard that you saw Choma was showing the other time, Blessing is also, his hand is very visible in the data analytics that we also do at EFINA. And last but not the least, online lives matter. Mr. Kalusa, yes, you can smile. So one of the things that fascinated me when we launched the A2F fact sheet, right, state fact sheet, was the fact that Mr. Kalu was one of the first people who picked it up, right, and started tweeting about it, how financial inclusion across the various states, the true state of financial inclusion in the various states. So apart from he's a social commentator, he's a policy analyst and a financial literacy advocate. He has certification in financial literacy. He's also had over 22 years banking experience, both in asset management and all of that. So he's not just somebody who lost financial literacy. He's lived a banking life before. Now he's doing advocacy, right, also. So I think we have a very balanced room. Don't ask me why is there no woman in this panel, right? Please, my job is just to do this. You can ask Zeno when Zeno comes. All right, so thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I have a very short time, and I will go very brief. I've always been accused that I talk too much, but you can't take that from a teacher. So let's start with the online people. Mr. Uche Kaluaja, please confirm you can hear us.
I can.
Oh, beautiful. I want to start with you. Why financial literacy, right, and public education? Why is that important? And
Well,
just a minute, sir. And how has the A2F data helped you to advance that financial literacy and public awareness campaign? Please, the floor is yours.
Well, you have to just cast your mind back to 2007, 2008, when we had the global recession, right? Because folks were buying homes without understanding what APR or how to take a loan. And just a few guys in America, they understand finance. It's spread around the world. You had Alan Greenspan talk about the lack of financial planning being the biggest problem in the world back then. This is a guy that's gone through the Gulf War and all that. So if you don't understand money, that's a big problem. It spreads, and that lack of information can cause GDPs and economies to fail. So that's just the baseline reason why financial literature is very, very important. To this report, the EFINA reports, I look forward to them every biannual when they're out, because it just drilled down to Nigeria, and it shows how well we're doing in this field of advocacy. How well are we getting the word out that investing, savings, pensions are very, very important for Nigerians. And you see the report out today. Some good stuff is there. Some depressing, humbling stats are also there. We've done pretty well in some areas we haven't done that well. So this sort of gives us a barometer on how well we are doing and what we should also focus on. Those of us in the advocacy field on Twitter, social media that are pushing out this kind of information. So this helps us. It gives us real-time information, also gives us material to go back and say, listen, this is what's going on. We have a lot of gaps in the Nigerian financial system that we need to close up with more information, more education, and then raise that whole financial inclusion numbers up to where we want it to be. Yeah.
I will follow up very quickly with the point you made, and this is really coming to decision making when it comes to people that use financial services and the various financial products, loans, savings, and all of that. And my question is really around financial health, right? How, specifically speaking, what key data points have you seen that kind of nudge you, whether comfortably or uncomfortably, to then say, you mean this is the financial health status of Nigeria, either at subnational or, generally speaking?
I mean, the one that hits me is the credit, access to credit. It was at 2%, now it's at 4%. We haven't crossed 5%. And that's for Nigeria. So how do you grow an economy where folks do not borrow or have no access to credit? And even when they do borrow, who do they borrow from? Not from the banks, they're borrowing from the informal sector. We have all the fintechs, right? But no one is getting credit. If you also look at pensions, it's flatlined. So long-term savings, we have to ask a question, have we really maxed out the eligible occupational workers that can get a pension in Nigeria? So you see a lot of all the sophisticated financial products. Nigerians are not adopting them. Mobile banking also, we're below 50. So you want to start to ask the question, what are we actually doing? Are we just paying salaries to workers that they work in a formal organization, they get a salary, they go to the bank, and they're included? We're not doing stocks. Look at Bitcoin that we hear a lot of noise about, 1% usage, pensions, less than 3% usage. So those numbers are a bit humbling. That's the word I would use. It just shows that we need to, I'm not sure if it's to educate more or if it's a lack of resources to take advantage of these opportunities. That's what we'll have to pass out maybe today.
Thank you. I think you got us well started. And Mr. Chairman, I'm coming to you. Beyond being in CB, you're also a member of FinTech NGR. You're also a member of the banking community. So I think you are in real soup this morning. Yeah. So there are lots of credits very low uptake, formal credit, right? Mobile money adoption, very low. Pension, very low. Insurance, very low. I think the progress we record more is really around payments, right? Transfers and all of that. From an innovation point of view, please tell us, what is the industry doing, right? Because now, every night, I remember in January, we started this year, we had AI masterclass on how to then drive DFS and financial inclusion. AI doing a lot of things. You've been having series of engagement. You also do advocacy in CB. Tell us from an innovation point of view, what really informs product development? Why are these figures very low? Credit, pension, insurance, and all of that. You may necessarily not the pension guy, but of course, you know how important pension is. You also in the community of fintechs also. How important is product innovation in these areas where Mr. Carlo has just spoken to that these things, they give him goosebumps, right? Each time he sees these numbers very low, they are humbling. How important is innovation in this area? What is your ecosystem doing? And what is the role of data, particularly A2F? Because I think one of the questions Tommy will ask me is that, are we just doing A2F and CB and Cody are not using the data? I think she really wants to know. My CEO also wants to, do you people even use the data at all? If you don't use the data, if there's a problem, I think we'll solve it today. So I've given you 4 questions to answer. Yes.
Okay, and I really want to apologize for coming very early. These meetings can clash. Ordinarily, I would have said I'm not going to be here, and I will send a representative, but this is EFINA. And you guys may not know what you are doing at EFINA. You may not know what you are doing. The truth is that each time we need to make a reference at work, everybody quotes EFINA reports. Everybody quotes A2F. When you want to make or buttress your point around some initiatives or where you want to go to. And you can see that from in 2020, where we have 34% in payment adoption. I'm not talking about financial inclusion this time. I'm talking about payments. To the last report I saw in 2023, which says it's about 45%. Hopefully, by the time we see the 2024 figure or 2025 figure, it will be way more than that. So we use this data. Maybe we have not optimized it in a way that can help us to. I also think some of the problems, and I'm happy that the federal government is well represented here, because anytime you call on Dr. Zaro, he's always there. So long as it has to do with financial inclusion and public awareness, speaking about advocacy for this cause. So Thank you so much, sir, for always listening to the industry. Some of these things are also government's approach. You will see the shares in the insurance company going up because the presidency signed the Insurance Act to law. And some of these things can also promote initiatives. And before I could say Jacobson, like 4 companies said to me that, oh, they have products around insurance that can help people. Yeah. So some of these things are also government-led, sir. If you help us with the pension act, the other acts that can also help to drive financial inclusion. We were at the central bank earlier in the year, myself and the CEO for Insholam and the CEO of SANEF as well, and we were talking about, it was a final report after she has presented, so we had a panel that spoke to what else are we doing? And in that place, we formed a committee that will be looking into insurance, pension. We know that these are the next set of things that will help. Nigerians were bad with something. Once this thing is working for me, everybody goes there. And so when payments started working, foreigners started investing in payments, we started having unicorns in payments, everybody left every other part. But with the new line that we are saying, I am aware, myself and my colleagues in the industry, we're already thinking of plugging into insurance, whereby it's a one-stop shop. Otherwise, you lose all your customers. We know that those things, people can use the strength of having insurance or being able to buy insurance or pension or anything, come to your organization. Because if your mobile offering or your payment offering offers insurance, offers savings, payments, and pension, then you can be sure that you don't have to do so much to convince a customer to come to you. You can use the strength of those products to come around, and that will promote innovation. It is still this ACF that told people who were interested in agency banking that these are the places you should go in the north. To show that there are gaps in these places, go there. It is this same report. So I don't agree that we are not using it. In fact, as a matter of fact, it is this same report that shows us that Nigerian youth, what is making them almost lazy, according to the former president, is that they don't have work to do. Not that they don't have work to do as such. I'm careful because Nigerian youth, when they come back at you now, they won't know that it's their own that I'm doing. They come and say, so people now saw that these Nigerian youths have been idle for some time. They've given them tools, instruments to work. What are the tools? Maybe common POS devices. And that's where you see some video skits on Instagram when they ask kids, what would you like to be? In our days, we say you want to become doctor. Even though when you enter university, JAMB will humble you and change your career. But you see kids now say, I want to become a POS operator. So that means we have created an industry from that perspective, which is still better than Okada because they break their leg and their leg from there. So anybody who says, I want to become a POS operator is gradually telling you that I'm interested in financial inclusion to make people literate and serve them. Banks can't be everywhere. And even if you're going to be everywhere, we'll be everywhere in different skills. Where we will build brand A branches will probably be in the cities. But we can extend banking services even to the rural area through agency. And it is the A2F reports that have shown us all these kind of things. Has even started showing us that we need to start having other bouquet of services. Pension, it doesn't have to be big pension for people like people in structural organizations. Why can't a tailor have a tailor? Why can't they have the tailoring community? Why can't they have pension with their jobs? They can. We can have insurance for them to insure their businesses and the equipment they are using in their organizations. All we need is, if these things are available through partnership, integration, and innovation for these services, then service providers can then distribute them through their agency. And when agents have them, in no time you see everybody getting aware of these services that exist. I don't know if I missed any of your questions, but
No,
I try
no.
as much. We are still here.
You did well. You did well. Thank you so much. I forgot to introduce the other part of him, which he doesn't monetize. He can really make people laugh, right? But he then drives the point home too. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Blessing. All right. So I want you to, in this next question, 4 things I want you to consider. Number one is benchmarking and accountability. The second one is policy design and prioritization, which he briefly touched on in terms of how government's policy can then, influence the direction of innovation, because setting regulation has opened up the space. The third one is around product insight, and the fourth one is cross-sector collaboration. But then the main question is really, how do you see the role of A2F in strengthening evidence-based decision-making in both private and public sector across these four things I spoke about? So A2F role, right, strengthening decision-making, evidence-based decision-making for benchmarking and accountability, for product design and prioritization, product strategy insight, and lastly, cross-sector collaboration. Because you sit on the data, and when you triangulate, right, different variables, what are the insights you see, and how can they help us do these four things from a private public sector point of view?
Thank you so very much. I must start by commending EFINA. It's a fantastic job you've been doing over the years, and if you reflect on the presentation from Chioma, you can see that EFINA has really gone a very long way, and it's not just like a surface kind of data that they are collecting. They go deep. Even by the time you are collecting 750 data points, on a single individual, that is like a whole lot to collect, and you are doing that across about 2,800 communities in Nigeria. So it is a lot, but when I was reflecting on what other value, what other data points would EFINA collect, EFINA has collected so much that the question is now adoption and usage, and that ties to what Mr. Kalwa just said. Even though there may be some stakeholders in the room, maybe Wema Bank, still references EFINA data, but the question is that to what extent do you have adoption and usage of this particular data point, because there is so much rich insight in it. In the data set now, you can reference what is happening in 2023 against what happened in 2020, against what happened in 2018, and you can go way back as far back as 2008. That is significant. You can dissect the data from subnational point of view. So we are not just looking at financial inclusion at Nigeria level anymore. You can look at it from a regional point of view, and then you can identify insights that are in the data or the points where you can deepen financial inclusion. But if I want to, some of the concerns I have with the EFINA data is the fact that the time apart between the two surveys is kind of too wide, because a lot between 2023 and 2025, a lot has happened. We have reviewed the price of fuel several times. We have increased the minimum wage allowance. In Nigeria, we have done so much between then and now, and these are policies that have direct impact on the access to quality financial inclusion or access to quality finance in Nigeria. So is there a way to conduct that survey, maybe not at the depth that we are planning now? Is there a way that you can probably partner with Planning and Research and Statistics Department of the Central Bank? Is there a way you can partner with Nigerian Bureau of Statistics to collect a subset of the same data point? Because there are more questions that we need to answer, and access to financial inclusion is happening in real time. Some of those things is happening in real time. People are changing their mind almost in real time. How do we capture all of this without waiting for like two years? Then in terms of cross-sector collaboration, I think I've kind of mentioned that you might need to engage guys like, you do indeed engage guys like Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, but 2 years interval for collecting the data, I think is too wide apart. Then lastly, I think EFINA is also doing a fantastic job with the kind of collaboration and kind of engagement that is happening with Kaduna State. Is it possible to have more of those kind of engagement at subnational level? Maybe not the whole 36 states of the Federation, but maybe from a regional point of view, there is a state, EFINA it's engaging at that point. That would also give a different kind of perspective, you know, beyond what is happening from Abuja, because the policies happen in Abuja, but the impact is felt in Kafancha, is felt in Yenegua.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So you actually stepped into the next question I had wanted to ask you, which is really what more can we do, right, from the data point of view? What more indicators can we track? And you're talking now about real impact, because people are either being included on a daily basis or they are being excluded because of policy and different economic indicators that impact Nigerians. So you talked about periodicity and more states deep dives, and that need also to happen. I think the question around how frequent that should happen, I will leave that to the powers that be, and to be able to explain. But Mr. Carlo, I want to quickly come back to you. Blessing said a lot of things around, dimensioning the data and how more indicators can even help us make quick decisions. From the work you do, right, in terms of looking ahead, what will be the specific data points? And we will talk more about some of these things, and I hope your response gives us some guidance when we go into the breakout room. What will be specific data point that you think should be tracked? Data point, variables, or themes that should be tracked in the 2025 A2F round, or even looking into the future, in order for us to better have better understanding of the financial inclusion landscape, not just from broader economic point of view, but from individual, economic well-being. The floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, I think savings is very, very important. I saw a lot of reports on the data on the savings out there, how many Nigerians were saving, broken down into gender and even location. That is very, very important to track how we are saving. I was very surprised to see that we're doing a lot of savings through the mobile apps. I assume that number will be higher. Also to track how quickly we can get liquidity. How quickly can a Nigerian raise an amount of money? I see you guys also track that in the report. That also tell us, the financial security, i.e. how, what's the word now, buoyant the Nigerian is. If we have a problem, we don't have insurance, can we quickly raise 25,000 like you've done? Those two data points drilled down to local government area are very, very important, because it just tells us how resilient the Nigerian consumer is. I think that's those two things, savings and the ability to raise capital very, very quickly. In terms of education, they're just basic questions. Do you know what interest rates mean? Many Nigerians, like I see when I interact on Twitter, don't understand that if you say 10% interest rate, that translates to 120% per annum. Just those simple, basic questions. Do you understand what interest rates, what APR mean? And not just saying, I'm going to take a loan. Because we don't go to the banks to get loans from the banks, when they get a high yield loan or high interest loan, many Nigerians are not able to tell the difference. This is a high interest loan that I should be careful about. And this is a normal banking loan, about 25%, if that's normal, that I should take. So that's for education and also for the data point I would like to see going forward from my own side.
Thank you for that. We really don't have time. I hope you all stay with us during the breakout session. But Mr. Ajibade, my chairman, as I always call you, let me come back to you. So digital payment you spoke about from 34% to 45%, from 2020 to 2023 that we saw. You are hoping that this round, the numbers will have grown, right? But what new insight do you think that the A2F needs to provide to help the bank, the fintech community, to drive trust? Remember, we've had crossfire on fraud before. I always come back to that. So driving trust, security, and adoption specifically among excluded groups and that vulnerable population that we spoke about, the invisible victims?
Okay, so what other things do I think the A2F should add to make it more robust around security? You have mentioned, because again, I'm not sure the report currently provides information about fraud. And as we grow in payments and electronic commerce, e-commerce, there will of course be an uptick, the growth in fraud. And there should be an uptick in fraud awareness as well. One of the places that we can get this information will be through the same A2F. How are the consumers feeling? How much do they trust their bank? You know, because those information will also help the bank to know what else to do better at, especially when they see which bank is leading or who has deployed a better solution than they have. I was searching through the internet just now. I've tried to remember the name of this particular report that rates banks in those days. The name of the MD is Funshaw, and the surname is his name of that particular report. I don't know if anybody can help me. MD Sanef. Sorry?
Yeah.
Philip Consults,
okay.
Fisher Phillips.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Philip Consulting used to rate banks in those days. You see, first, second, I don't know whether it was EFINA that killed them. I don't know. We don't see those reports again. So you can step into that particular role to look at banks. I think KPMG is doing something in that line, but
Yeah, consumer
maybe it would be
Consumer
nice if
satisfaction
EFINA can
index.
also validate what they've done.
Okay.
Because that KPMG, don't forget that KPMG is a customer to banks.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? If you understand.
Yes, I do.
Uh-huh.
I do.
But EFINA is not a customer to bank. EFINA is a level playing ground. Maybe to carry, with all due respect to KPMG, but I just feel because you are an auditor to banks, there might be, you could have told them to do something right. And of course, based on the fact that they've done it right like that, they may score some small points.
Yeah.
But EFINA, in this case, is plain and unbiased. I think you should take up that particular role and look at it from several perspectives. First off is customer experience and user experience. How easy is it to use your bank's platform? It will help the bank, because as you are helping the bank, you are also promoting financial inclusion and payment. Then from the fraud perspective as well, from trust in terms of how much are you charged? Are you aware of what you are charged? Because some customers complain that every time they pay me, the bank takes 15 naira. Of course, it's not the bank that is taking it. It's electronic money transfer levy, which is a government fee. But clearly the customer doesn't know. So the bank should have done well in educating the customer on the various type of charges that come into your books. So even if you are leaving this particular bank to bank B, these are statutory fees. You will still pay it over there. The bank has not done well. That's why the customer is complaining. If you have done well with all your fees, the customer will understand it. So those are the kind of things I think the report can also carry. The report has done well right now with respect to gender, with respect to age and geography. So the demographic of the report, I think they've done well. You guys have done well with it. But beyond where it's like the report is only for investors and operators. We need to start looking at how we can make it better for the consumers. And those are the people that we are trying to bring into the space.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to wrap up. I will ask you for a quick 30 seconds. But we've discussed some points here, which, looking at my note, we talked about collaboration. We talked about data more being granular around savings, credit, pension, insurance, which Mr. Kalu spoke about. And of course, you agreed on the role of innovation. Blessing things that we should do more in terms of more deep dives across the state, and also things that we can innovate around the periodicity of the data, right? But more importantly, how that data can help us in decision making. Quick word, 30 seconds. What do you think parting words for EFINA as they go into the 2025 round design and implementation?
Thank you very much. I feel like it's already doing fantastic job. I cannot overstate that. In terms of some of those additional insight, I will look forward to it. Perhaps if there is possibility of triangulating the demand side data with supply side data. You know, Nigeria Interbank Settlement System is very, very rich in that data. So if you can strike some kind of partnership that will help you to do that. Awesome. Then secondly and lastly, can we look at finance without talking about money? So is there a way we can triangulate that data with what is happening in education? Some states are giving free education. Is there a way we can triangulate that data with nutrition or with health and wellness? You know, so if we can do that, we have significantly enriched
30 seconds.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, Chairman, I'm coming to you last. Mr. Kalu, 30 seconds.
I just want to comment the report, the authors of the report. Just a great job. It's so rich, so detailed. Yeah, you really can read it in one go. So just good job for the report and very, very best.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, there is a point in your 30 seconds I want you to touch on, right? How do you think EFINA can help the banking industry put this data to more use?
Okay, so I will speak to that, but before I get to how EFINA can, what EFINA needs to do more to get the banking industry to do, to use this data more.
Sorry, before they will kill me, right? Not just the banking industry, banking, fintech, the financial service
the operators.
Yes.
The operators. I would like to say that I think some more people should partner with EFINA, starting with the federal government. This EFINA report, like I said, it wasn't only Wema Bank, it's everybody, the banking industry generally, where you want to quote something of how well you have done or where else you need to participate in. The only report, standard report that is acceptable is the EFINA report, and is the A2F. I think the federal government should adopt EFINA to take care of their needs and the reports. Not only that, I think state governments needs to also invest in that, because if the federal government does that, what it will do for the federal government, it will make the federal government shine. It will give the federal government a 360-degree view of where we need to invest more as a country. It will also give the revenue side of federal government where it needs to tax more, because we need to generate more revenue for the country. Sure. And this can only come from that nitty-gritty EFINA report. Yeah. Then I also think the body of bank CEOs and the bankers committee should adopt EFINA as well, from a position of this is the people that gives you the particular insight into how the country is doing. Because when we rank countries together with respect to financial inclusion, it should be about 75%. Nigeria, are we meeting up? These are the people who go into, risk their life into the market to ensure that that report is done holistically. I also still think that apart from the Nigerian government and the banking industry, the telecom industry as well, to show that they've done well, they need the EFINA reports, and all of them together, the federal government, the state governments, the banking industry, the central bank and body of bank CEOs, and telecom industry, which is NCC and all the telcos, they all need to intentionally adopt EFINA and the reports to promote it and make it bigger. Now, how can EFINA make this thing, make the reports more accessible, more useful, used by the bank? Honestly, I don't think EFINA should do any other thing. Data is what fuels the new artificial intelligence. You have the data there for you. What the gentleman has spoken to and what we have all contributed to today are sufficient insights for EFINA to just work on. It is now left for brilliant people to take hold of that. The person who currently, I won't mention name, who currently is running agency banking all over Nigeria today, said, I saw a EFINA report and saw gaps in these places. So I decided to build solution. I brought the solutions to bank. They did not take. I went to look for a license that permits me to get it done. So if you're a bank or an operator or a fintech and you still don't have sense, well, we pray that you receive sense in Jesus' name.
Amen.
That's the only way we can do it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we come to the close of this session. I want to specifically thank my panelists, Mr. Kalu Aja. Thank you so much for finding time. And Mr. Blessing Oladiji, thank you so much. My chairman, sir, it's a pleasure having you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. No. Mr. Kalu, please put on your video. Yes, come close to me. Come close to me. Okay, please come and represent. Mr. Carlo, please put on your video. So, yes. No, we have to see you, ma. Can you shift a little so that we can see? Yes. Yes. And him too.
Would you let Prof start?
Okay. Yes. We are blocking.
Prof, come.
Gender balance, okay.
We are please, let's move a little. Dr. Zaro, you should join us. Federal government, please come and stand here. Okay, all right. No, you should. Yes, that side. That side. No, that side. We are balancing here. Thank you.
So federal government has a
A round of applause, please. What an exciting, very inspiring panel. Thank you all for your attention, and we thank the panelists for sharing insights and also ideas that we are ready to implement. And we also thank the chairman of CB for mentioning potential parents we can have to adopt us. Please, we are ready. Thank you so much. And thanks a lot, Mr. Mukuro, for very well, brilliantly handling that panel session. A lot for us to cover. Now, here's the interesting part we're about to embark on, where every single person is going to have an opportunity to contribute to the insights around the questionnaire, which is the core of why we are here. We're going to have 7 breakout rooms. 4 are online and 3 will be in person, those of us who are here. One of the groups is going to be in this room, and then we'll have 2 other rooms outside where the others would go to. We're going to select who goes to which room by taking numbers. So since we have 3 breakout rooms physically here, we're all going to take numbers between number 1 and number 3. And if you're number 1, you're going to be here. If you're number 2, you're going to be in the breakout room just directly opposite the entrance and exit door into this room. And if you pick number 3, you are going to be in the 3rd room, which was on the hallway coming down this way. If you are going towards the reception, is on your left. And you will see on the small TV screen beside the door, EFINA. Those instructions are for those of us who are physically present. And then for those of us who are online, we are going to be split into the 4 online groups. I'm going to mention the names of my colleagues who are going to be moderating, because in every room you are going to have somebody from EFINA with you who is going to support the conversation. So please listen as I mention who is going to be responsible for each room before we take numbers and then know where we would be physically. But what I'm about to share now are for both the physical and the online participants, just for you to be aware of who is going to be with you in your room so that you can ask questions and get clarity, and then we can stay online on the path with regard to the discussion points. So for breakout room 1, which is an online group, we have Uchenna Enyoha, who is going to be with us. So if perchance you are in one of the breakout rooms and you see Uchenna Enyoha, he is going to be the room moderator from EFINA. For breakout room 2, which is physical, we're going to have as the moderator Tomi Eromosele. For breakout room 3, we're splitting that into 2, A and B. A is online, and Emmanuel Umukoro is the moderator for that room. And then for B, breakout room 3B, physical, Nora Igwe is going to be the moderator for that room. Breakout room 4, also A and B. A is online. We have as the room moderator Babajide Daini. So Any of these names you hear, once you see them in the room, know that they are the ones who will provide any guidance, clarify any questions, and ensure that we are keeping to time and we're answering all the questions for which we want to get responses as we evaluate the questionnaire. Breakout room 4B, Chinasa Collins Ogbo, she is going to be the moderator for that room. And finally, breakout room 5 online, we have Chioma Wiwu, she'll be the room moderator. So those are the names to watch out for, please. And we are going to, before going into the breakouts, we also want to reiterate the point we mentioned earlier. We're not going to get tired of doing this, but we necessarily love to recognize our key partners who are continually supporting the work that we are doing. And we have in the room, would like to mention one of our key partners who has been supportive of financial inclusion initiatives, and this is with regard to the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction. We have with us the technical advisor to the Honorable Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, Dr. Peace Longet. Thank you for joining us. A round of applause. Thank you very much for being here with us. And then we also have another practitioner in the realm of financial inclusion, and that is the Country Advocacy Coordinator for Site Savers International Nigeria, that is Mrs. Esther Baturi. Thank you for joining us today to lend your insights. And in the room here, if any of us have heard about an account which was specifically designed for women called Yanga account. There was a big billboard on your way into Victoria Island, and that Yanga account, of course, was implemented by Unity Bank. And we have in the room with us Mr. Olufunwa Akinwade, the head of digital banking for Unity Bank. Thank you for being here with us. All right, and then again, the last recognition for now, before we break out and take our numbers before going to our rooms, is the CEO of 10th Code Media Limited, Mr. Francis Egwehi. Thank you for being here with us today. All right, very good mix of professionals and practitioners, and we would like to now take numbers. We're going to go clockwise, beginning with this table, because we have moderators on this table for now, and then we're just going to go around the room. What we're asking is just take a number between 1 and 3. So if you take 1, the very next person to you on your right will take 2, the next person will take 3, and we'll go like that, table after table. And once you've gotten your number, please remember your number. If you're number 1, you are staying here in this room. If you're number 2, once again, you're going to the room directly opposite this one, opposite the door. You will see EFINA on the screen beside the door. And if you're number 3, the next room that bears EFINA, which is on the hallway as you try to exit or go to the reception, on the left, that is where number 3 participants will be having their breakout discussion. When you get into each room, you're going to see documents. These documents, please hold on a moment. All right. So, thankfully, we're going to get more details regarding how we would carry out the conversation in each of the rooms. And my colleague, Babajide Daini, is going to take us through those various steps. So please pay attention as he takes us through that. Daini, over.
Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, we're still in the morning, just 6 minutes to noon. Hope we haven't having a nice time here. We've not bored you. You know, data bores people, but not us here because we need it. It's actually very good for us. Thank you, Zeno, for actually leading the early part of the sessions. And like we have learned today, or we have been hearing, we are trying to find out how the A2F can help us to learn better things. We've already talked about deepening understanding around what we want to know in the sector, informing action. And primarily, I think the third one is really around ownership. And I think the chairman, CB, really hits the nail on the head on that one. We need to promote ownership of this A2F. Regarding conversations today, there have been a lot of talk around the EFINA report, the EFINA report. It's not just an EFINA report. Yes, EFINA is currently leading it, but it's actually a Nigerian report. It's actually a Nigerian financial inclusion report, and that's what we want to lead this towards making commitments, towards applying these findings, and then sustaining the survey's role as a common good. And to do that, as we lead towards this ecosystem ownership of the A2F, because that's what really we are thinking around public-private partnership for the A2F, we want to ensure that everyone in the room is speaking to people's needs. Sometimes use is actually because people don't use because they don't see it as relevant to them, or it doesn't address their specific questions. And that's what we are really going to be doing when we break out into the rooms. So we have it broken into across 5 sections of the questionnaire, starting with mapping the users. I want to confirm what is showing on your screen. Okay, yes, exactly that. Mapping the users, where we'll be talking about, we've already talked today around segmentation analysis, how we're trying to create personas around the A2F. This, in the room, you will be expected to go deeper into this, just to look at it, find out the things that are probably missing, things that we need to add. We'll go into some of the specific questions that you'll be helping us to answer in the room to beef up this learning agenda. Then we have a second section of the questionnaire, which goes into what do people have access to. So things around financial service providers, financial services, banks, and also just to try and understand what they have access to. Again, following a set of specific questions that we are going to ask them. We've broken the room, just like he mentioned, into different people that are here, people in the ecosystem, and you can see them already listed there. Although we're going to break out into, we're going to choose numbers like he mentioned, but we may be able to, we may adjust the room based on how we see the gap, who we need exactly in some rooms, because again, random sampling does not always do it. Sometimes you need to stratify things, and we'll try to do that even as we are here. The third section is around how do people move money. We've had a lot of conversations around payments, remittance, channels, and even mobile money here. And we'll be having people just look through the questionnaire. I believe that everybody has access to it, whether here or in the room. Even people online, please confirm that you have access to the questionnaire. Of course, the time doesn't permit us to go through everything in detail one by one, but you can start looking at it and then having to provide information that is necessary. In the fourth section, some other people will be looking at how people build financial security and manage their risks. So things around savings and pensions, use of informal service providers, something like that, and just seeing what else is needed. I know that Mr. Kalu was online just some minutes ago, and he's actually tweeted a number of good things about the A2F. I had asked him some questions online, saying that people use Esusu and use Adashe, and he answered, he said people don't use anything, and then he tweeted another chart of it. These are the kind of conversations that we want, but we want to see more. What other things are missing there? What other kinds of information do we want to see where that is concerned? And then the last section really around financial health. Just like Chairman said, this is another area that we are focused on. We would like you to help us look into that section and see what else is missing. Please, next slide. So across the rooms, we'll be helping to answer these questions as we go there. In some rooms, we have tailored the questions to fit what to ask, and the moderators in the room will be helping us. Of course, we're going to have a plenary later on, and each person from the room will be presenting on behalf of the group, just to tell us specific things that you found. But the questions that you'll be asking are surrounded around this. So disaggregation needs. What kinds of things do we need? What subnational or demographic sectoral breakdowns do we have there? And are things adequately covered? Are there emerging needs that probably we have not thought about and we have not included in what we have there? Then things around relevance, because that is key for use. Do the questions adequately capture the demand side things that we are looking for? What is missing? What can be improved upon? And then specifically 2 insights that you would like to place your hands on when this report comes out. How you want to see that come out. We want those insights to come out immediately. And also alignments and usefulness. How can the data from the section best support decision making? And then we have these 2 questions which you also help us to answer, but they are more cross-cutting than specific to the questionnaires themselves, really around actionability. How do you or your institution, how would you want to use the 2025 data? Peradventure, someone like Dr. Zaro for policy, or other people in the room, product design, advocacy work. What exactly do you want to do with the data? We would like to know. And also because today we have also talked about a lot of collaborations that are needed, and EFINA has also been told to go looking for those partnerships. Peradventure, they are already in the room, or maybe some people have extra things to add there. So in what ways can you, of course, you as stakeholders, co-invest in dissemination, interpretation, and uptake of the data? What are the things that you have available? And I'm sure we had it before, but we had to change something around the feedback form. After all today is done, we're going to have a feedback form on our tables where we will also just highlight this, just help us point to specific areas that you can support, or some other information that you have in your organization that we probably don't have, but that will help to come together to do this. So right now, Zeno, I think we can go back to breaking up the rooms into 3, you said we're choosing 1, 2, 3, and then breaking that. You said we should start from this table. So that will be from Dr. Zaro. Prof. 2, CEO 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Yes, sir, on the red tie. 1, 2, 3. 3. And then so 1, 2, it's fine. It's fine. So we can break into the groups now. Yes.
So number 1 is here in this room, Lekki room. Number 2 is in the room directly opposite Lekki, directly opposite this exit door. And then number 3 is the last breakout room. On your way exiting, going towards the reception is on the left. You just see EFINA on the screen. Yes. So please, number 1 should stay here. All number 1 should stay here. And then, like Diane said, some specific individuals might be moved to some rooms. Okay. We will start now. What we want to do right now is provide feedback. We are sure that for all the groups, physical and virtual, we have our facilitators nominated. So the facilitators should please get ready. We want to thank you all for being involved actively in the conversations. This is the reason why we gathered, to get insights from everyone. But we'll all admit that the time was not enough. This is what we call a rapid fire sprint that we've all been part of. But we want to assure all of us that please, your inputs, your contributions should continue. We just had the high level provision of contributions on the different sections of the questionnaire. However, between now and the 29th of this month, which is Friday, we would love you to feel free to throw in your recommendations, any additional inputs that we couldn't discuss today, so that these can be collated and taken into consideration when the final version of the questionnaire is being put together. So once again, we are going to send an email to all of us who are here physically and those who have joined virtually, a link that you can utilize. You can access the link and then put in more contributions. Things you couldn't share during this limited time for the exchange today, you'll be able to do that, and feel free to be very expressive in your own ideas about what should be included in this important research instrument. Yes, so we had said 29th of August, which is Friday. So it's going to be in the email. By this Friday, we'd love to have received all our contributions. So don't feel pressured. Don't feel you did not have enough time, which we know you didn't have enough time, but you've shared a bit, which is very fine. But other things you would love to add, please, between now, after you receive the mail, and Friday, end of day, would love to see your feedback through the link we will provide. So thank you very much. It is now time for us to hear back from the various groups. So we have 7 groups, and group 1, the online group that Uche was the moderator of. Uche, can you let us know who your facilitator is? Each facilitator would please provide feedback in 2 minutes. That's a tough one, but let's try our best. We are behind schedule based on the agenda, so we're trying to compress the remaining 3 elements of today's gathering within the limited time so that we can go for lunch by 1:30. So, Uche, if you're online, can you please let us know who your facilitator is?
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Zeno. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Group 1 had a very interesting conversation. And of course, like you've observed, we had limited time to really do justice to the task assigned. However, we have leading the team, Yusuf Lenge of CHCO Growthly. He would be speaking to the priority questions that we've identified. But we also had some specific feedback from the questions, which Anita from Octoville will be speaking to. I hope we'll be able to keep it within the 2 minutes allocated. So thank you, and over to you, Yusuf. Yusuf, you're muted if you're speaking. Okay, perhaps before he comes up, Anita, if you could go, please. Oh, I see. Not permitted to unmute. Let me see if we can sort that out. Okay, you're unmuted now, Yusuf, please.
Yes, I am unmuted. Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Yusuf. As Uche said earlier, And yes, we did have a very short time to, and I'm sure every other person will say that. So no need to belabor that fact. The emphasis in the group was to look at how the priority questions, how we can, how the priority questions apply to the set of questions that we looked at. And the first one being which subnational demographic or sectoral breakdowns are most critical. And I would say that at the local government level, for the set of questions that we looked at the local government level, and even if possible, take it much lower than the local government level. That's for the subnational. And then for the demographic or demographic focus, I would say that the female gender at the local government level, the question should be disaggregated to that level. For relevance and gaps, do the questions adequately capture the top demand side data gaps needed to address challenges or maximize opportunities in your sector? So I would say that the questions can be improved upon, and we looked at that and made some suggestions, especially for some of the options within the questions. But yes, the questions are relevant within my space that I work, and they also capture most of the data gaps that are available within that sector. Not many, there's not much information or not much data about who is spending, but we had questions that asked that. Who is the spender? Who is the highest earner in the family or in a household? And who is spending? So how many dependents do you have? But we don't have that much data available, so that would serve. Top insights. What are the 2 top insights we should put in your hands, or questions that we should answer? I would like to see questions about, I would like to see input about young people labor. What I mean is under 15. The data captures from 15 upwards. It focuses more on people from 15 upwards, because we have a question that asks whether you are between the ages of 15 and 17, and then 18 and above. So I would probably want to see more questions about labor of underaged people and how they contribute to household. Now, so I know it's an uncomfortable area, but that is a reality in northern Nigeria where my focus work is. Yeah, so I probably want to look at that. Alignment and usefulness. How can the data from this section best support decision making? Yeah, it can help if we can get government involved at the subnational level. And then actionability. How do you and your institution intend to use the data? So we did a work on resourcefulness and resilience last year, and I see ways that we can marry whatever comes out of this data into our report. And with EFINA being a more senior data provider or research institute, it's easier for us to validate our data and the information that we have with EFINA. Yeah, I'm wrapping up. Collaboration and ownership. In what ways can stakeholders co-invest in dissemination? Stakeholders can use their platforms, their websites, their social media platforms, and whatever reach that they have to disseminate this work. So thank you.
Thank you so much for those fine highlights of key insights that came out from mapping the users. We appreciate that. Very well delivered. And like we said earlier, please, when you receive the email, throw in additional thoughts and ideas and inputs regarding the section that you had reviewed as a team. Let's move on to the next breakout team. So the moderator was Tomi Eromusele. That was breakout room 2, which was actually here. Those who selected number 1. So who is the facilitator for that group? Those who were here in the main plenary room, who is your facilitator? We'd love your facilitator to look at what do they have access to? That was the question. All right. Okay. All right, so we have Uche, MD of SANEF, representing the team that looked at what do they have access to. So, if you can do this in 2 minutes, that would be great.
That's all right. This is. I thought it was even Toby. I was trying to, Okay. So I should just give you just everything overview of what we did.
The highlights.
Okay.
Everything can be covered.
Okay, so for us in Group 1, good afternoon, it's afternoon everyone. For us in Group 1, we looked at the segments, and we also had some contributions, some other segments that we're going to add. We have a lot of informal lending segments, even some of the ones that are on social media, and they're making waves, and also the narrowing it down to who the last mile, what interests them. Also on that segment, we try to segment, adding some of the regulators, also even the security firms, in terms of who do you go to. So for instance, EFCC, it's an open place, so people walk in there to even make complaints and all. Then there's a particular one I also want to highlight, the issue of trust. The issue of trust. So we decided that that will be merged into the QF9, because when you talk about trust, there's a whole lot around trust. Is it trust in that I didn't receive my money, or that I don't trust this product, or that is going to? There's just a whole lot around trust. So we merged that, and that should be the survey should break it down to different aspects. Let's not assume that they know, different aspects of trust, because trust is actually a very big deal in most of when we're talking about access to, financial services. So we talked about what are the two main things. We talked about access to financial solutions, which includes credit and every other thing. Then collaboration, the issue of collaboration. We mentioned that each key party should also have their own stakeholders, and even before the survey comes out, we should go through the key parties, and they would disseminate it to their own stakeholders for contributions. So we should have reviews as what we call like a draft document before it goes out there, because what happens is that when we don't also involve all these people, we involve them when we're having the ceremony, and by then we've passed very crucial points, because there are certain things that may not necessarily be there, or we don't have their endorsement. I'll use the word endorsement. So by the time we're all coming together to launch a product, it's like we all did this, and we're having a 360 degrees information coming from all aspects. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Uche, for representing the team that looked at what do they have access to. Let's now move on to the The third group is divided into two. The online, let's go to the online. This team had Emmanuel Umukuru as the moderator, and the spokesperson has been nominated, and that is Mrs. Temitope Akinfade. That was a very rich group, and in fact, before she speaks, just to recognize that a key contributor in that group, everybody there really put in a lot of very fine points on the topic around how do they move money. I would like to recognize in that group the chair that guided conversations, and that is Madam Hawa Wakili, who is the head of digital economy at the NCC. So if we can just recognize her before we hear from. Thank you so much, Madam, for joining us today, and we'll now hear from Mrs. Temitope Akinfade to talk to us about what was discussed in how do they move money. For 2 minutes, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Zeno, and good afternoon, everyone. Pleasure to be here. On behalf of Group 3A, I'll be presenting our outcomes. Can you hear me well? Can the room hear me well, please?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm casting my screen. We discussed extensively the questions that were given to us, and then I'll just quickly recap. I think the major thing is just to say kudos to the members of the team. It was a very rich conversation, and the consensus was all the questions were relevant. But however, we believe that there were room for improvements in some of them, and then I'll summarize some of our key items that we identified. So for some of the questions, we saw that we had listed options, for example, under a question around payment channels, and we felt that the options were not exhaustive. So we believe that it was important to make provisions for others so that consumers can actually indicate some other areas that they also use for payments. Under bills payments, a major feedback came from the group because we listed some cable options that households make for their payment needs. And we felt that there was a change in consumer preferences, and probably some households no longer use cable options, but streaming platforms are becoming quite prevalent. So we felt it was important to include that as an option for utility bills payments. One other utility bill that we felt was important to capture was waste disposal, which a number of households actually pay for, maybe on a monthly basis or different period interval. Another key area, just to try and recap very quickly, was around access to access points, and it was actually sort of grouped together to say that access could be a challenge, distance could be a challenge, but the group felt that both were important enough to be recognized separately. So accessibility should be captured on one hand, and the distance or proximity should be also captured in its own area to show the importance of it. Another area that we felt was sort of not adequately represented was around digital literacy, and that's the understanding of people on using payment services or payment channels. So we felt that a question should be included around low understanding or digital literacy. And we discussed extensively as well around the mobile money segments. And one question we felt was important, and this came very strongly for the telecom sector, for example, is to also sort of get insight around mobile phone coverage to know what is available across the country as we question the respondent to the survey. And then we also felt that we should emphasize if people were interested in learning more about mobile money to sort of gauge their responsiveness. So
Please
to
wrap
recap
up.
to wrap up around our key insights, several things were raised, but 4 key things we summarized as our major key insight I would like to see. One is how digital payment is enabling people's lives over and above everything else. And 2 is granular level data on smartphone usage. The other things are around how often do people change their network provider to gauge service quality. And then finally, how often do people change their phones from an economic point of view, and then looking at affordability. I think I'll stop here. Thank you so very much for the opportunity to present.
Thank you so much. Very, very fine points that were highlighted, very well articulated and well noted. So on that same question, we'll now listen to the representative of those who were in the room, and that is Breakout Room Team 3B. Nora was the moderator who was nominated as your speaker. Round of applause. So please, we've all been doing great, trying to stay within 2 minutes. It's not easy, but please try.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So in our group, we spoke to money transfer, and MT1, that was the first question. We thought that it would be great to add, instead of just limiting the options for money transfer to family and friends, it would be great to add generally, because it goes beyond just family and friends, to add business transactions and things like that. Sorry about that. For MT5, 10, MT15, and MT20, there was something that we found there that was general and we thought to address, which is the fact that in terms of the options, the first option spoke to personal use, and then underneath it had food, school fees, and other things like that. And so we felt that instead of having those options of food, school fees, and everything, it would be best to categorize those options. So put those things under personal use, and then have savings, and then insurance, and the rest of that. For MT5 and MT7, we thought that it would also be great to further break down savings into formal and informal sectors instead of just generally saying savings. In terms of our insights, we deviated a bit from transfers to collateral and credit. And so one of the insights was the fact that there was a need to ask questions if people had bankable titles, if they would want to use that to access credit and loans. Secondly, there was also the opinion that women might not own lands, but some of them have business assets. And so it will also be great if that was also an option that they could use to access some of these loans beyond having land or landed properties. I think lastly would be a question that was suggested on insurance and the willingness of individuals to pay for to pay for insurance coverage weekly, just like you have a SUSA and the rest of them, instead of if people will be open to that. So that was something that someone wanted to know about. Thank you very much.
Perfectly done. Thank you. That was very much in time. 2 minutes, 9 seconds. All right. So we're just going to change the program just slightly. We want to move on to the closing remarks and next steps. Then we're going to go back to breakout team 4 and then 5, because we have a distinguished member of our board who is present, who actually has been an ardent supporter and advocate for financial inclusion, especially in the area of women's economic empowerment and women's financial inclusion. I'm very delighted to invite to give our closing remarks Professor Janice Olawoye.
We're breaking all kinds of protocols, having the closing remarks before the closing. And I will give a vote of thanks as well, even though nobody is going except me. And the reason I'm going is because I don't want to have trouble when I get home. I have to meet the train by 4, so I want to leave in time to make the train. It's been a wonderful session. Honestly, I came with not really an understanding of what was really going to happen today. And I'm just so excited because we've had the perspectives of so many different, from so different many angles. And I think it can only enrich what we are doing, add so much value, because we get the perspective of people who are in different aspects of this. I was only just smiling because what I had suggested actually when we had a meeting last week was that longitudinal studies, normally they're not so close, you know, every 2 years. Normally you see longitudinal studies, you're talking about maybe 5-10 years in between. And so I was saying that, you know, one of the things we might consider is if we have a bit more space. And then Mr. Blessing came up and said it should be even more often. I mean, if he had his way, maybe it'd be every 6 months. And EFINA would go broke in another 6 months. But the passion with which all of you have spoken concerning the A2F data has really given a sort of an energy, a renewal of the necessity of doing this, and recognition of the appreciation of it. And for that, we are very, very grateful, because it has, I think it has energized us to work harder and to provide that. However, at the same time, the Bible says money answers all things. And so the chairman's suggestion, which I hope people would jump on board, is that other people should, you know, also support this initiative. well, Americans would say, put your money where your mouth is. That's a bit crass, but at the same time, it is a reality, because as we talk about more questions, as we talk about the sample that we want more deep dives, which are great, but every time you put more people into the field for a longer time to talk to more people, it's going to increase cost as well. So I would hope that those service providers and the banking industry and so on that are making use of this would also recognize the importance of supporting this initiative so it can continue. And having said that, let me just say that Nigeria is so diverse. I conducted research, I'm a rural sociologist, and I conducted research in every part of this country and Ghana, and there's no two villages that I went to that I would say are the same. Even within the village, there's so much diversity. And so it can be seen as a challenge. People can see challenges either as an obstacle or as an opportunity, and we see it as an opportunity to know that it isn't one size fits all, that the solutions that you have for one sector of the population may not work for another group. And so we need to be very innovative, as also our name suggests, and we have to come up with ideas that will help the most vulnerable. And I believe that with all of your support and all of your ideas, we can make that happen. And so let me just give the vote of thanks and to thank everyone for giving us the time, both those online as well as those who were able to come, and just to really appreciate. We are so grateful for all of your insights. God bless you. Wish all of you a safe journey back wherever your travels may take you.
Thank you so much, Professor Olawoye. We really are motivated by those words, and we are very encouraged by your presence. You always come. No matter what it takes, you're always present, and it's not just verbal assurances, but it is also in-person presence to demonstrate the importance and also to continue to motivate others to recognize that numbers mean people and are not just statistics. All right. Okay, so we can now continue with our review of the feedback from the groups. We're now going to breakout team 4. And the online group had as moderator Babajide Daini. Who was your named facilitator? Or were you given that job as well? All right, so over.
Thank you very much. Actually, I should not use the 2 minutes. We didn't have too many to say. I think for the most part, the people who spoke in the group really applauded the major sections. There was someone from, I think the person from micropension really spoke very well about the session there and saw that those things were I mean, they would like to know why, and they can see that those questions were asked. Specifically to savings, they want to find out why people are saving and for what purpose, and that we need to adjust that question a little bit to also set aside. So people save, and then some people set aside money, and what are they setting money aside for? That would be nice to ask that. And then about pension, adding a language around retirement savings accounts, so that because we know what we are asking, but the people who are using or who will be administering the questionnaire need to have all the options when they are talking about those things. So talking about retirement savings accounts, it's an easier language to go alongside when we're talking about the formal pension one. And then around what people do in their old age, because we asked the question around how confident people are. He's saying that we should tweak the question a little bit to ask that if people don't have pension and you don't have an insurance cover, how confident are you about old age? And he thinks that may drive home the point more, especially as we're asking. And then there's another person who spoke about leveraging technology to address savings. So some of the questions we've asked around savings and investments, what is the role of technology in it, and said that seems not to be there. Use of digital platforms for those investments and the savings, how are they making those investments, whether it's in stocks or those kind of things, what platforms are they using? Thank you.
Thank you very much. 2 minutes, 6 seconds. So you actually kept to your word. Well, thank you very much for the insights. The points are very well noted. We want to emphasize that point we had earlier shared again, which is these points are not exhaustive. Our ideas and thoughts and contributions are not the complete list of all what we would have loved to share regarding the sections we reviewed. So please, there's going to be a mail circulated with a link. So throw in all your thoughts so that once the instrument is now administered in the field, very soon, you are sure and confident that the results will capture what you have identified as relevant for our country. So let's move on now to those who were in the room. And Chinasa was the moderator. And who is the speaker? Still on this same point. Yes. So you have a new name now, TJ. Pensions. Does that replace Awaba?
Go side by side. Good afternoon, everyone. So we looked at how do they build financial security and manage risk. And the 5 points we looked at, I'll just go through them. The first was relevance and gaps. We looked at this at expanding the scope to fit current realities. The questionnaire kind of a lot of focused on climate change and our Greek, but we talked about having it be more inclusive to cover issues around security, disease outbreak, displacement, and gender-based violence. Also, I think we looked at it expanding to also cover pensions and the value of loss that is being insured against, to help drive better understanding for service providers to be able to better align their products. Now, the top insights to look at, we looked at understanding the why of financial stability. So why, if somebody bought insurance, what exactly drove the person to be able to do that, so that that can be able to better inform more financial service provision. Also, how women engage financial services, that needs to also be nuanced into the conversation. And the third was pensions adoptions. I think I've already spoken to that, but this is also speaking to knowing why whoever got involved in pensions, why they did it, because there is the mandatory pensions, but there's also the voluntary pensions, which is micro pensions. Why did they decide to pick it up, and why are they using it? Value of loss, I've already spoken to that. The third is alignment and usefulness. This was particularly important because we looked at it from the perspective of helping policymakers better design training around conversations. We had somebody from one of the regulatory bodies in the house with us, and he basically said that the data itself helps them better design the trainings that they use, and also access to more financial services, with one giving access to another. So we had a lender in the house who spoke about the fact that if you had pensions, it made the person more comfortable to be able to give you credit, because if you have one, it means that you have good financial habits. Accountability, we looked at this from the aspect of product design and funding gaps. because of course, I mean, we're also looking for money to be able to drive greater financial inclusion in Nigeria. Then the fifth, which is the part I wanted to quickly get to, is collaboration and ownership. There was a lot of conversation in the room, but I just put 3 words: shall do together. Because there's a lot of talk, we come to these things and we do a lot of talk. But what I've realized is critical, that everybody's doing almost the same thing, and if we could just form Voltron, sorry, for people who do not understand who Voltron is, you might want to Google that. If we could come together and be one unique force to actually target it, it would actually make more sense. So not only from the aspect of driving the financial inclusion, but also advocacy and awareness. If we could fund it collectively together, it would reach more people if we're able to do that. So that was the work we did. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A round of applause as we move on to the very last, which of course beyond that would be having our networking lunch, and we thank you all for being with us since sunrise. Thank you for your contributions. And to represent Breakout Team 5, we have Seun Olarumaye online. He's going to represent Breakout Team 5. Can you hear us, Mr. Seun Olarumaye? You are to respond to how financial healthy are they. That's what your team discussed. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Just to confirm.
Thank you so much. If you can please share back with us for 2 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. As rightly introduced, the team centered around understanding the financial capability and health of the everyday Nigerian, as well as also thinking through consumer protection as well as realities around fraud. With respect to the relevance of the question, our team, we're not really much, we're just about 5 persons on the group, but we confirmed alignment with the question, but also made some recommendation around some possible missing areas. So the first being around financial capability, the questions around what are the major matters and goals that require a large amount. We had factored that we need to look at relocating abroad, which is the typical JAPA syndrome. Putting that into context, yes, there is a provision for traveling abroad, but I mean, relocating abroad is also quite important. We also understand that the GNI was used for the second question, just trying to understand ease or difficulty in assessing typical everyday fund somewhere around the 75,000 naira. That definitely needs to be updated in light of the recent GNI. And finally, on possible questions addition, we had also thought through how people typically raise money. So this is everyday Nigerians, individuals, and while savings was provided, we had also factored the need to have investments in focus. And this is in light of general investment tools available out there, which differs from savings distinctively, especially in terms of you being able to readily access this fund to deploy them into an urgent need, as the case may be. Now, speaking about top insights that a number of the group members have said we're looking out for, we see that the question does not necessarily have sufficient PWD or marginal group focus. And this is because in light of available data, if we have up to 25 million persons with disabilities in the country and somewhere around the 10 million displaced persons, it puts us at a 35 million, and that's even over 15% of the Nigerian population. So we had also made a case that we definitely need to be deliberate about getting the realities of the marginalized group. Also, we're thinking through possible alternative financing solutions and perhaps even alternative collateral systems way beyond landed properties. And so we had opined that perhaps engagement with stakeholders, even present in the room, could think through what fintechs are doing from an overdraft side. We are aware of a number of products that are quite expensive in terms of the rates, but of course, stakeholders in the room can generally think through this. On actionability and collaboration, I know that from the earlier panel sessions in the room, there were a number of alignments with respect to how useful this information will be in increasing financial inclusion, even serving policymakers as well as private sector and development actors and beneficiaries themselves. So we're fully aligned on that, and we're confident
wrap
that
up.
if all of the considerations can be put into better use, it's going to be a solid report. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Olorumaye. So we've had this initial sprint, and we really appreciate all the contributions, all the insights, all the wisdom, all the thinking that has come into the various conversations. Once again, we are maintaining that beyond today, your inputs can still come. We are going to circulate a link between now and 29th of August. Please share your contributions, any additional thoughts. We have all been exposed to the sections of the research instrument now. So based on what we've discussed, please, we would love to hear back from you so that when we look at the research instrument, we're able to enhance it, refine it where applicable in order to ensure we have something strong that will make all of us excited and proud of the A2F 2025 study once it is concluded. So some key points that came from the 5 groups, just one line per group. The first one, looking at younger people less than 15 years, that was mentioned. The second group talked about looking at trust, breaking it down into its different aspects and involving all stakeholders so that there is collective ownership of whatever is implemented. The third group, 3A, talked about low understanding and digital illiteracy being persistent. So how do we address that within the questionnaire and talk about that? 3B, business assets in place of land as collateral for loans. That was mentioned. Then we had for 4A, using data to design training, and then the expression that many of us won't forget, which is also captured in on screen when you look at the welcome screen, is SHA, do, together. Thank you very much, Mr. Tunji Andrews, for that. Then, of course, from the last one we listened to, investments as something distinct from savings and which could build resilience. So thank you very much. A lot to take home today. But of course, this is not the end, but the beginning of a journey. Partnerships that will be strengthened and all of us working collectively, not working in silos, but contributing to be part of the whole. And like Tunji Andrews mentioned, you can Google Voltron, but I think what he meant by that was synergy. So all of us can work together. The sum of the individual parts will lead to something even much more impactful and beneficial for Nigeria. So I would like to say a big thank you and appreciation to all of us. It's now time for us to go for lunch. Hold on a moment. Thank you so much. Please, we need your feedback. So on your tables, you will see a QR code. On that same page, you will see feedback form. Please scan the QR code. It's a very short questionnaire. We just want to get your feedback. We keep making this better based on what you tell us, because we're all together in this, on this journey. So please, on your table, scan the QR code. It's not going to take you anything more than 3 minutes to complete in providing your feedback. If you scan the QR code and you are unable to access the form, let us know. But please, we will love you to do that before we have our lunch. Lunch is just outside. It's buffet. You can get your meal selected and then please come back into the... It's online. Okay, the feedback form is also available online. The link will be shared. So please, it will be shared. So please, for those of us who are present online, please look in the chat, see the link, access it, and give us your feedback. So thank you all very much. And yeah, online lives matter. But the online lives launch, we would say would have a virtual package for you. But of course, we look forward to when we can be together and then benefit from our press together. We wish you were here. We actually wanted you to be here, and thank you for your inputs and your contributions. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of today's event, and thank you and have a good day. Ladies and gentlemen, before we have lunch, can we just gather for a group picture? Outside. Okay, it's going to be outside. Okay. So please, if we can just convene outside of the room for a group picture, please. The group picture would only take a few minutes.